teacher is Stephen Drew. An employment tribunal that's currently taking place in Fife, involving a nurse, a transgender doctor and a dispute about the use of a changing room, seems to have struck a chord with the Scottish public. I've been hearing more about the case from our Scotland correspondent Lorna Gordon.
There's been lots of headlines in the newspapers, coverage on TV programmes and considerable heated commentary on social media about this tribunal hearing in which Sandy Peggie, who works as a nurse at a hospital in Kirkcaldy, claims that being made to share the changing room with a transgender colleague amounts to harassment under the Equality Act. It's a claim which NHS Fife and Dr Beth Upton, who's the transgender doctor named in this case, dispute and say is unnecessary and vexatious. Well, Nurse Peggie cites 3 occasions towards the end of 2023 when she shared the changing room with Dr Upton. This was a changing room en route to the A&E where they both work. And she says she shared the changing room with Dr Upton, who she says is a man. Now, on the 3rd occasion, the pair exchanged words, although it's disputed what was said. And the following week, Nurse Peggie was placed on special leave and later suspended after Dr Upton made a complaint. We've yet to hear evidence on HR procedures, the different sides' arguments about the law in this area and, of course, the closing submissions. But what we have heard is the recollections from both Nurse Peggie and Dr Upton, and Dr Upton's evidence continues tomorrow, in particular about this disputed conversation. What we've also heard is, I think it's fair to say, pretty strongly worded and wide-ranging questions and challenges of both of them during the cross-examination.
And as well as a dispute over the details of the conversation, there's also a dispute ahead of the tribunal over how to refer to Dr Upton.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the language used in this case is contentious. Nurse Peggie's legal team argued that being able to refer to Dr Upton as a man and use the male pronouns he, him is fundamental to their case. The lawyers representing NHS Fife and Dr Upton argued that what they called the deliberate misgendering at a previous hearing had caused pain and distress, and that the doctor's preferred pronouns of she and her should be used by all involved in the tribunal hearing. But at an earlier hearing, the judge ruled that both sides may use whichever pronouns they wish to make their case, but also actually said that the tribunal would intervene if male pronouns are used gratuitously or offensively.
You say this is grabbing the headlines in Scotland, and the debate over transgender issues, transgender rights in Scotland has been a particularly fraught one, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. Again, you know, it's worth going back to some of the ruling in these 2 earlier hearings. In one of them, the judge stated, though, that the actual issue of trans women's access to single-sex spaces reserved for women is currently a matter of widespread public debate and substantial political, moral and legal argument in the UK and elsewhere, most obviously the United States, with President Trump's recent actions. So I think actually in some ways it's fair to say that the wider debate here in Scotland is no more fraught than elsewhere. But I think it is more political, given the SNP's approach to the Gender Recognition Reform Bill, the vetoing of that by the Conservative government, who said it cut across UK-wide equality law. And, of course, it has been playing out more in the public eye here. Most recently, the Chief Executive of Rape Crisis Scotland apologised unreservedly to survivors of sexual abuse after a damning review found one of its centres failed to protect women-only spaces. The Supreme Court, the UK-wide Supreme Court, is determining what a woman is for the purposes of the Equality Act, equality law here in Scotland. And, of course, J.K. Rowling is amplifying the gender-critical view. And then now we have this case over the use of a female changing room at a hospital in Kirkcaldy and the issue of who is legally allowed to use it.